If a new card arrives in a card game and no one is around to collect it, does it really even exist? Shanna the She-Devil recently dropped in Marvel Snap as a brand new Series 5 card on January 17th, 2023, looking to offer a brand new tool to many Kazoo-style strategies and Zabu decks alike. And when a card like this is released, you would think there would be some kind of fanfare online, people talking about theory-crafted decks, where they intend to use it, and whether or not they think the card might be good. But I've looked far and wide, and there's nothing. In fact, even most content creators have kind of mostly ignored Shanna's release. I think people are still quite dejected that unfortunately it feels like most Series 5 cards simply aren't attainable. And even when they feel like they are, there are such a variety of options, some of which are clearly stronger than others, that spending 6,000 tokens on a card that is speculative at best just doesn't feel like a very good investment overall. In fact, if you're limited on collector's tokens, there's a good chance you won't own this card for several months. And that's the problem. I've played a handful of games in Marvel Snap since Shanna released, and I can confirm I've seen the card once. In fact, most content creators I've spoken to haven't seen it at all yet. It's hard to be excited about something that simply doesn't feel real. So I'm here today to look at some possible solutions. A number of players have expressed extreme frustration about the current situation regarding Series 5. They'll never feel like they have a complete collection. They can't play the decks they want to play. And for content creators, they can't even keep up and play things people might be interested in. So I'm going to offer you 3 ways I have thought of so far to potentially remedy this problem. So disclaimers, first of all, of course, I don't work for Second Dinner. I'm not a game designer, and these aren't really taking the financial aspect of the game into consideration. Second Dinner has to make money. They're a business that's what they're here for at the end of the day, regardless of how good their game might be. So sometimes there's a good chance that these solutions might not be financially feasible in their overall game plan. Secondly, these are very much my thoughts on how we could remedy this issue. I am but a single man on the internet, and my opinion is going to be worth as much as you want it to be. That being said, I would really like to have a healthy discussion about this kind of topic. So if you think you have your own solutions, you want to suggest another way of remedying this issue we all find ourselves with, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below for me, and let me know your thoughts on how you would remedy the problem of Series 5 cards. With all that said, let's take a look at solution number 1. Why don't we just start the cards somewhere else? The first option here is to kind of start brand new releases in Series 3. It's fairly well established at this point that most players reach this stage of the game in a reasonable time frame. And while not having the cards you want exactly can be quite frustrating, you're still receiving cards regularly enough between reserves and the token shop at this point to make a card feel acquirable. Even if you have no interest in Shanna the She-Devil, this kind of progression system would at least more likely encourage you to pay attention to the cards that are releasing in this new set of cards, because even if you don't want it, you're going to want to know what you can open and, more importantly, what you're likely to play against. More importantly, I firmly believe Series 5, as it is right now, should not exist. I love Thanos, I love Galactus, and I actually love the fact that iconic Marvel big bads have their own series of cards and are extremely rare and coveted. It feels very appropriate for such iconic characters. It makes them feel very special, and that's an incredible unique feeling in a card game as long as those cards aren't meta warping. But the Sentry is not Galactus, and Dazzler is not Thanos. These cards are not the same level and shouldn't cost the same amount of tokens or have the same drop rate as a result. Meta-defining cards like Darkhawk feeling so paywalled not only upsets players, but it actively discourages community events if players feel like they can't win without it, possibly killing battle mode on arrival if people just don't have any interest in community events and only want to play with their friends. In my opinion, we should just be looking to scrap Series 5 as it is and move more non-iconic characters down to Series 4 and accept the cards that are placed in Series 5 are meant to have a special level of prestige and will likely never be demoted from them as rare, hard to attain cards that have unique but not meta-warping effects. This is potentially an even better solution if we combine it with solution number 2. Why don't we try increasing the drop rate? This is obviously a fairly simple resolution to why people don't care about cards. They don't feel real, they do not feel attainable when Series 4 cards drop at 2.5% and Series 5 cards drop at a whopping 0.5% of the time. If we take a look at this tweet from Dexter Snapster, commented on by many other content creators in the Marvel Snap space, some of them have never opened a Series 5 card up to collector level 10,000. 10,000 is double my collector level, and I've been playing since early beta. Why should I think that opening a Series 5 card is even remotely possible for a player like myself? And as a result, you can release all these cool, sweet cards into Series 5 that I should care about, and outside of my job, I just don't. I won't get to play with them anytime soon. I probably won't see them enough to have to care about what they do. And the easiest way of fixing that is to increase that number. Now, I understand that Second Dinner wants players to end up at roughly the same point until they're Series 3 complete. I actually think that's a really good thing overall. It gives a more regimented journey with an element of randomness, so people know there's only a certain point you can get to before you have acquired a certain card that you want. But just like the collector's tokens amounts can be changed significantly once you are Series 3 complete, the drop rate on Series 4 and 5 cards can as well. Such low drop rates when not Series 3 complete allows these cards to still be available to players if they're very, very lucky, and that should hopefully make them feel very special and very unique when they do crack one or two of them along their progress up to being Series 3 complete. But bringing them more in line with other rewards once Series 3 is complete seems like a very valid way of alleviating player concerns. Initially, my thought process is to make this closer to something like an ink finish or a gold finish for your Infinity Split cards, something around the kind of 10% mark or 5% for the rarer one if that's how you want it to be, but that should make them feel more attainable. Most players have access to a gold or inked card. In fact, some players have complete decks of those effects at this point. If we increase those numbers to that point, you are making Series 4 cards maybe even 4 times more likely, and Series 5 cards way, way more likely to drop than ever before, and people can compare those odds. They know they have gold and inkified cards, and they'll know as a result they will have some Series 4 and 5 cards on their collection track somewhere, as opposed to them feeling largely invisible. My third solution is to try and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Again, to be quite blunt here, people kind of hate getting a title for reaching infinite. It doesn't feel particularly exciting. Most people have one title they really enjoy, maybe a small handful they rotate through, and they want ones that are more unique. If the whole point of a title is to show off that you've achieved something that maybe the other player hasn't, when 10%, 5%, somewhere in this kind of ballpark of players are making infinite every month, that title is not unique. You're going to see it on the ladder plenty. In fact, as you start climbing towards infinite again next season, you'll see a fair chunk of really, really dirties and Herald of Galactuses. The majority of people aren't interested in this title if it's going to be so readily available to players they play against on a regular basis. It doesn't really matter how themed to a season it might be. I think we can take inspiration to wanting something themed to the season, and possibly inspiration from the idea of first edition badges, and fix these problems at the same time. What if we were to allow players who reach the infinite rank to choose one of the 4 cards that release that month as a reward? This is just the 4 cards releasing week on week on week on week. I don't want to make the Series Pass card available as a choice here, but maybe that's something you can consider doing too, to offer that card to players who don't want to pay earlier than before. You can give it a special badge to show that it was your infinite reward and that's where it came from, as opposed to being bought from the token shop or opened in a cache. Obviously, a system like this would require some serious reworking in-game to make it function, but I think it's a pretty reasonable solution overall. It doesn't feel impossible. It gives a more coveted, unique reward to players that reach infinite rank that season, which should encourage more players to push to make infinite overall. And it shouldn't discourage anyone from still wanting to buy the other cards that release that month, because if you buy the one you want early, you can still get a different one as your infinite reward at the end of the season, effectively doubling the speed that players can afford Series 5 cards. Instead of looking at 1 a month, they're looking at least 2 if those are things they want access to. These are just my early thoughts on fixing this problem, and they've come from a place of concern and, I guess, sadness. I want to play with Shanna. I want to create content with this card and show you guys why you should be excited about it. But I can't. And your reasons for being unexcited aren't unfounded. At the moment, Shanna and similar cards that are releasing down the pipeline just don't feel attainable. Most of us are running low on tokens or know that there will be several months until these cards drop to a lower series where we can realistically gain access to them. And that makes what should be arguably the most exciting part of Marvel Snap, as new cards and new releases enter the game, heartbreaking. I hope you'll let me know what you think about this kind of problem below, and possibly offer some solutions of your own in the comments section if you think you have any. If you do enjoy this type of content, you've got to let me know. Please consider subscribing to the channel, maybe leaving a comment about how you thought this video went. It will kind of inform as to whether I do this kind of thought process style video again in the future. But until next time, thank you for liking the video, thank you for leaving a comment. I've been Howling Minds, you've been amazing, and this has been Marvel Snap Zone. Take care, have a good one.